Why should we control car parking when the public supports these sporting events?
Well, some members of the public do, but the interesting thing is that when we go to games and we stand outside the MCG, there's very good support for our position amongst people going to the football. And these are people who've parked elsewhere or they've come by public transport, and they agree that they want to arrive at the football and walk through a beautiful park and not get run over by cars because the cars are using the same paths.
So you're saying that people that go to the sporting events and the other events are actually responsive?
Many of them are. There are people who arrive at the MCG and park there and insist that that's what they want to do. It's interesting, it's not just the local residents, but many of the people who attend who would much prefer to arrive and not have to wade through a sea of cars to get into the ground.
If they can't park in Yarra Park, where can they park?
Yeah, well, we haven't seen those figures. There's a lot of claims being made by the Melbourne Cricket Club and they're unsubstantiated. Well, our own survey shows there's 4,000 car parking spaces within easy walking distance in commercial car parks. So there are plenty of alternatives. And many of the people who are coming long distances could drive to their local railway station and get on a train.
Do you think the AFL's on side with this campaign?
Well, it's hard to say because they've never answered our letters. It would be nice to see some leadership from the AFL. Look, it's no secret that the AFL and the Melbourne Cricket Club don't get on. That's why they built their own ground down at Waverley, which was a massive failure. Perhaps they could stick to some green principles the year round. I mean, if you go to an AFL football game in Perth or in Brisbane, your ticket includes public transport across the network. And that's one of the things that we're calling for, to include public transport in the fare. I mean, the majority of people arrive by public transport now, as far as we can tell. If you're coming to the football with, 2 adults and 2 kids, the public transport fares add up. But if you include it in the ticket price that you're paying anyway, then suddenly the economics changes completely. Connectivity between Richmond Station and the MCG could be improved. Trains have the capacity to move that crowd. There's plenty of capacity in the network. There's no problem there.
And yet you want to park cars in the ground 197 days or more a year.
Well, it's certainly a contradiction in physical terms, because if we can't get into the park because it's full of cars, then the only people who are going to enjoy the benefit of that are the car drivers, not the local residents. What's the point?
Claimed in the House last week that even if cars are parking in the park, then people are free to move in the car park. What do you think of that position?
I've tried to move around the park when the cars are parking, and I've actually been assaulted by one of the parking officers who said I was getting in the way of the cars. On the homepage of our website, we've got a football patron's comments to us saying that he left the ground. There were 84,000 people leaving the ground. It was dark, it was raining, and there were cars driving through them. It doesn't stand up to the fact.
So there are public safety issues as well, clearly here.
Yes, and if you're a local who's used to going through the park on your way around the neighbourhood, the thing is that the cars drive on the same paths as the people walk on. After the game, there's no order, there's no supervision. People just drive out at whatever speed they like.
How can people support your campaign?
If you want to get really active, you can help us by knocking on the doors of your neighbours, and we've got a nice little kit. You can donate to help us with the printing and the cost of the campaign, or you can just we've got some great little A4 posters that we can put in our windows, and we're running a postcard campaign to send a postcard to the Premier. So whatever level of involvement people want, there's something that everybody can do.
Nick, thanks very much for your time.
Thanks, Stephen.